How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another MRL league race video. This week we were at Suzuka in Japan for round 5. Just looking at the standings here, you can see after France last week, after that win I got, I'm at the top. So 6 points in front of T-Ball, but he'll be coming back with a vengeance, I'm sure. Just on my final qualifying lap here, the first two I didn't really put all that together. My banker, as you can see at the top left there, was a slow one. I think I actually lost the car a little bit, and I was put 11th. So this was my final run. You can see I haven't improved all that much, but coming out of that corner there after the S's, a very tricky sector 1, I'm able to be about 3/10 up on my first running time, so definitely looking a lot better. I knew that if I could just get in a decent lap without making any big mistakes, that I should be able to get within the top 5 at the very least. So that was kind of my plan on this final lap, because I just had to really avoid invalidating and making any major mistakes. And really, throughout the qualifying session, kind of throughout the race, it really came down to that first sector where I was struggling. I find that if you just hit a curb or anything, you can just go flying. So you really have to be careful there. But as I round off the last corner here, you can see I'm about 1.2 seconds up on my time, and that puts me P4, which is not bad considering it was my last lap. Drix takes P1, T-Ball in P2, Isan and Chuckmaster just ahead of me. As the lights go out here, I think everyone knows, if you've played Japan before, it's turn 1 can be madness. So I get a pretty good start, try and go up the inside of Isan, but pull out of it because I know that if I just drift wide, I probably would have had some contact. So pretty decent start, didn't lose any positions, and now it was a matter of staying clean and sticking with the group up in front. You can see with high fuel going through this first sector, it's absolutely so hard to keep the car in the right line, and really couldn't put the car on the limit just when it has so much fuel in it. It's much more difficult to handle. So pretty good start. The guys ahead are within distance, still in DRS range. So from now until lap 2 or 3, it was just a matter of staying within DRS range, really settling into a comfortable pace, trying not to absolutely destroy and wear out the tires too early. And as always, my mindset is to just keep away from warnings and damage. Now, as for the preparation that I had for this race, I did pretty much the same as what I do for all these races throughout the week. I'll run a few practice sessions. I think most of the guys, including Drix and I know White Colombian, we usually run a few practice sessions throughout the week, and then there's even a little social race that we like to do, which kind of prepares us. But other than that, I ran maybe one Grand Prix against the AI, which I feel helps to really set into a decent race pace and get an understanding of what the car is going to feel like towards the beginning of the race. So just continuing on with our lap 2 here, still behind Isan and Chuckmaster. They're setting a pretty good pace out in front, so like I said earlier, just staying within the DRS range so that I can make a move a little bit later on. But as you can see there, I absolutely just cut that corner so badly, and another one here. So I got 2 warnings within a couple laps there, so not ideal. And you can see that on the leaderboards on the top left that Isan and Mod also have time penalties. So it definitely wasn't the most ideal situation to have the rest of the race and having to try and drive in a way where I'm not risking getting that final penalty. But as you'll be able to see a little bit later, it was kind of an issue that a lot of people had, including myself, and I do eventually end up getting that last warning. Not to spoil the rest of the video, but it is a track that a lot of people can get those warnings on, and I was definitely one of them. So I guess my only hope at this point was that other people just get more than me, and so that I can move up a little bit when it comes to the end of the race. But as we stay on board here, you can see that we're on lap 8, still within the DRS range of Esand. He has that 3-second time penalty, so at this point of the race I was feeling pretty good. I felt like I've been able to kind of use him as a tow while saving some type of ERS. I only really using it to inch back into his DRS if I were to come out of it. But got a pretty interesting little thing that happened here. So you'll actually see shortly that it says that T-Ball retires from the session, and we pass his car up on the left here, and we're actually going to go to his view of what happened. So you see he comes around this corner and then just cuts to the left, and as he's trying to get back onto the throttle, it seems like he just maybe clips that wall. I don't know what actually happened. It looks pretty unlucky from that point of view, but yeah, really weird that he got DNF there. I don't know if it was just damage we didn't see, but it looks like he just barely clipped that wall, so pretty unlucky for him. And just after that lap, it was time to pit, so I just followed Esand into the pits. If he would have stayed out, I probably would have pit too to try and just get the undercut, but I think for him and the rest of the guys ahead of me, they were also on the same strategy. So everyone kind of thought and pit at the same time, so there wasn't really much I could do there. But yeah, I guess just going back to that incident with T-Ball, super unfortunate, and I'm not sure if it was just a glitch or if he actually hit the wall and maybe it was just damage we couldn't see. Maybe his tire exploded or something like that, but it didn't look like much, so pretty unlucky. But like I said before, I'll take what I can get at this point, because I know he'll come back and has the ability and speed to win pretty much the rest of the races in this season. But now coming back to the race, we're still on, I guess, that outlap, you can call it, from that first pit stop. So I went from the softs now into the mediums, which is a pretty standard, easy strategy for Japan here. As long as you're kind of able to somewhat take care of the tires, the mediums should be able to last to the end. So with that in mind, I knew the tires would go off quite a bit towards the end of the race, so I knew I had to take care of them to a certain extent. So it put a lot more importance on really staying within the DRS of Esand, getting past if I do get close enough, but not really pushing it all that hard, so that the people ahead of me can wear out their tires and then potentially make a move when their tires are a little bit more worn than me. As we move ahead a little bit to the 13th lap, you can see there, as I mentioned early in the race, that corner was definitely an issue for me. I don't know if it was the sun or the way I couldn't really see the racing line. Maybe I should put on the full 3D racing line, but yeah, I just totally cut that corner and get a 3-second time penalty, which is not ideal. I hate getting those time penalties. It's one of those things in league racing that is very avoidable if you're really able to focus and pay attention to it, because you really don't lose that much time by not cutting the corners. So yeah, that was a frustrating thing for me to have, and you can really lose a lot of places at the end of the race if you do have a time penalty, and others can really take advantage if they haven't. So yeah, I was pretty good the last few races, I guess minus Singapore, but this was not one of those tracks that I could stay super clean at. Just crossing the line and going on to lap 14 here. As you can see, I mean, I've been skipping quite a bit of stuff just because there hasn't been many incidents or many things to really talk about. It's been the same order since pretty much the start of the race. But as you'll be able to see here, very interesting thing that happened. Drix just comes out of nowhere and pops up right in front of me, and I think we were all in a chat with him, and he said that he had reset to track, which the league doesn't take too lightly. So the incident and the reset to track is still under review, so we're not 100% sure what type of penalty he's going to get. So we'll have to wait and see where that puts him. But yeah, kind of really scared me there when he just popped out in front of me because we don't have ghosting on. So I thought I was just going to run into the back of him and then pretty much DNF. So following that, we do get a safety car here. So actually some okay timing, and I had a choice to make really, is if I wanted to stay out for the track position or pit for new tires. And I think the best strategy here, and what I eventually go for, is to pit for another set of mediums. So didn't want to go to softs because I don't think they would make it to the end of the race, and I did have another set of mediums, and they did feel really good here, so might as well pit for another set and go back out. I only lost one position, so I come out behind my teammate from season 1, White Colombian, and yeah, so it was a pretty good time for safety car to come out. I knew that I would have good tires until the end of the race. So we're just going to come up to the restart here where I'm just behind White Colombian and MB Jacobson, who is ahead of him. So this kind of added a little spark to the race because it was honestly getting quite boring up until that point. There was really no overtakes, and Japan, it's pretty difficult to overtake unless it's down into turn 1. So it did add some, I guess, spice, you can say, to the rest of the race, and it was a welcome sight. So just continuing on with lap 18 here, just after the safety car restart, I knew that since I had just pit for these new mediums, they had 0 tire wear on them, that I could pretty much push as hard as I can until the end of the race, as I knew they wouldn't wear out or give me any other risks. So yeah, I was really had the mindset of pushing as hard as I can. But as we come up to kind of this, I like to call it the spoon curve or spoon section of the race, White Colombian goes a little bit wide there, and I see a gap, so I go for it. Have to pull out a little bit because he's right there, but having the newer, softer tires, I throw an overtake and get the move done. You can see in the rear view mirror that Mod Doc gets by him as well, which was unfortunate for me. I kind of wanted White Colombian to stay in between both of us, because at this point Mod was my main competitor in the race for position, so I didn't want him to get by me, and I wanted to do everything that I can to stay ahead of him. So good for him, and good on him for getting by White Colombian as quickly as he did. I'm sure he knew that getting past was crucial for his point in the race, and another big kudos to him. I think he actually started below the top 10 because he had a 5-place grid penalty, another one of those glitches within the game where if you accidentally make small contact and it wasn't your fault, or in my case last year at this track, I was pretty much just on an in lap, and there was a queue of cars also on an in lap, and I got a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. So it's one of those things in the game that is pretty annoying, that doesn't really work out. But you can see we actually got another safety car on lap 19, and with this coming out at this point of the race, having just pit for a new set of mediums, I wasn't going to pit again. The field was a little bit too bunched up already, so pitting again for, I don't know, another set of softs or something like that wouldn't really make sense for me. So the track position was crucial to have, and no one really pit in front of me or behind me, so for the most part everyone stayed in the same position, and everyone just really saved fuel and ERS. So we're coming now to the restart of the safety car. So with 6 laps to go, I felt like I could definitely get a position on MB Jacobson here. I really wanted to get ahead of him and obviously get that 3-second buffer, as he hadn't had a penalty up to this point, which, I mean, good for anyone who didn't get a penalty. It's a hard place to not get one, and now that there's been a couple safety cars and the field is a little bit more bunched together, it means even more, because the gap in between cars towards the end of the race will be a lot shorter than usual. Continuing with lap 22 here, so just behind Jacobson, you can see in my rear view mirror there that Maud is looking to get by. For him and I, it's pretty much fair game for positions. We'd probably both be losing out to Tuan, who's behind him, due to the time penalties. So him and I were kind of battling here. So um, I'm just behind Jacobson, and I really wanted to get by him to either put another car in between myself and Maud and start scratching at that time to get away from Jacobson. So you can see I get a pretty good run on Jacobson, and I have a lot of ERS. But as I want to go for a move a little bit later on down this lap, another safety car comes out. So I don't know if Pogs ripped it into a wall or something like that, but another safety car does come out, which for me, it was pretty much like the race was over at this point. You could see that safety car's coming in now at the end of lap 24, so there's only a few laps, and realistically, if I were to make any overtakes, especially on Jacobson, he was just probably gonna come back with penalties anyways. So the main focus for the rest of the race was just keeping Maud behind at this point. So yeah, a weird race. The first half of it, I guess, was pretty uneventful. There wasn't a lot that happened, but going into the last, I guess, 7-8 laps of the race, we got 2 or 3 safety cars, so it really changed the full complexion of the race, and a lot of people, as you'll see a little bit later on, was able to capitalize on that and get some really good points by staying clean and being on those softer tires, newer tires, sorry, that the safety car was allowing them to put on. So really interesting race after the first half, and it's always fun racing at Suzuka. Nonetheless, there's always something that happens here. It's a fun track with a lot of different types of corners and challenges that kind of present themselves. But as we come, I guess, to the back straight here on lap 25, we get a pretty good run, and you can see I'm using most of my ERS to keep Maud behind, and I believe he was also using pretty much all of his ERS to try and make a move here. So I see an opportunity to kind of go down the middle here, so I kind of pull out the last minute before going full on the brakes to go for a move, but Jacobson defends really well, and I do leave some space. So you can see that Maud actually went off track, and this was an incident that was and is going to be reviewed by the stewards. He did have to go off track. I think if he didn't, he would have gone into the back of me. So interesting one. We'll see how it all plays out at the end, and what happens with regards to time penalties and whatnot. And as we move on to kind of the last part of the race and the lap, at least here, lap 27, I don't know if I just didn't realize that MB Jacobson didn't have a penalty or what, but I'm still pushing pretty hard here to get past him, and you'll be able to see later on, going kind of down into the final chicane, that I go for a move, and you'll be able to see that I pull it off, which is awesome, but it obviously doesn't really account for anything. It was, looking back on it, it was kind of dumb on my part, a little bit rash to try and go for a move. So you'll see I get really close, his lights flashing, go down the inside, make the move stick, lock up a little bit, but I'm able to get it done. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean anything, as he'll just get ahead on time penalties. So like I said earlier, very interesting race. Wasn't my best race ever. That was definitely last week's, but you can see I end up P5 here. There is some incidents to report, like Drix's reset to track. He might even get DSQ'd for that, so that might be another place up to 4th, which would definitely help in extending the championship lead. So anyways, good race. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for watching. Hit subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next week, which is actually a double header at Austria and Canada, so should be a fun one.